a Schlesinger is an honor, and I am proud, as anyone else is, to be part of this amazing, amazing family who always pulls together in time of need, whatever it may be. And Shloimy was one such example. We as a family embraced Shloimy, loved him, and considered him top priority. Since he was younger, starting with Camp Ask, where every family member had to be there. Camp Ask visiting day, we would never ever miss it. And we couldn't plan no vacation, no nothing. And it really was a family time. Everybody came, and Bobby went shopping and bought every child a treat and prizes, and everyone bought Shloimy his dollars and Coke and sandwich cookies. We all loved being there and taking care of him. And he really, really was a pure soul who just lived life like a tzaddik. This is what a tzaddik is. And I could say for myself and everybody else, I'm proud and lucky to be part of his life. And I wanted to put something together so everyone could see him for his pureness, and his memory should be of the happy times and the laughter that he infused in all of us and everybody around him.
What?
I know!
Regular vocal microphone.
No!
One more.
No! No! Boy!
This is the story of Shloimy's life, which illustrates the importance of Chanoch Lanar al Pi Darko and the tremendous effect of educating a child in the right setting for that child has on the child and the rest of the family. It creates ripple effects that last for generations. For historical reference, the laws that provided state and federal funding for schools that catered to children with special needs and trained teachers to deal with them were only passed in 1970 and 1975. It took many years for the programs we have today to get to where they are now.
I think that Friday brought she had in the school when she was a bigger girl already, they had to write up about brothers who are like handicapped, and she had brought a letter which somebody wrote for his wife. They had a baby like that, and of course she took it very, very hardly to cope, but then they got used to it, and they were very taking care of the kid very, very nicely. And then they had a second child like this, and that she couldn't take anymore. She was very completely destroyed. So the father sent a letter to his wife and said to him that Hashem sent it to him because Hashem saw that they are the one who take care of this child. So he figured this is the best place to place a child like this. So it relieved the pain. But We did not have that in our family going back, neither did my wife had that in their family. So it's something that come in Taka because of this Hashem, so that a shuma like this have to be placed to the right place.
The Schlesinger family was undeniably changed by Shloimy being part of our family. I don't know if we would have been the same family without him had we been so united and so loving and so one for another and all for one had he not been part of our family.
But a year before, Esther Goldie born, and first I didn't know what that is. Then later on I did find out, and then we got the same thing. So I couldn't complain to anyone. It's from Hashem the thing, and we accepted it.
Shloimy was born the second child, right? And when Yankee was a baby, Metzira used to hide Yankee's chachmas from Malaya, because Malaya's first child was down, and she didn't want that. She was so careful not to hurt her sister. She used to shep nachas from Yankee, but more in a hidden way. That Leah shouldn't realize that Esther's still not doing this and still not doing that. Esther was quicker than Shloimy actually. Shloimy walked much later than Esther, but they weren't. None of them were the regular.
The time Shloimy was born, it was not accepted to keep children like Shloimy with Down syndrome and with special needs at home. People either gave them away or just kept them at home in the closets. And Shloimy was very much part of the family. He was treated like any other child, and that's why we accepted him that way, because he was just part of the family. And the same goes to the next generation. Our kids treated him as part of the family, and it was just, he was a normal child.
Slept together in the same room, in the same bed. It was just a pull-out high riser or something like that. Or later on in a bunk bed. Shloimy would be on the bottom and I would probably be on the top or next to him.
I remember him sitting years ago. It wasn't a high chair. It was a square table, and the square table had like a seat towards the back a little bit, and in the table was the seat. So he had like a wide table, and that's where he always sat. I remember the table around, like it wasn't a high chair tray, it was a wide thing like a ches. So there was enough room on his table for toys or for whatever. He sat there a long time. But your father-in-law, it's a grote stark, and he's going to begin like, you know?
It was definitely hard for my parents because I know that people did not always welcome him. Although he was never in the closet, he was always part of the family. My father took him to Shield, for example, but some people did not appreciate bringing him to Simchas. And then, of course, then we would all stay home because it's not, you couldn't, some kids go in and he doesn't go.
They were so nebuch ibigenim. People heard them. How can they not get taken apart? People did such silly things to them, and then, like, they belong like out of here because you have such children, and you can't. Everything was because they have such children. Oh, Mrs. Katia, she has it down. Those days said Mongolian.
I remember once Sola came to visit my mother, and he was sitting on the couch, and that lady brought along her little 5-year-old girl, and she was afraid. She was holding on to her mother the whole time because she was afraid of Shloimy. We knew, there's nothing to be afraid of. Some people just, someone looked different, they were afraid of them, even though this was in the Heimische family.
So they went through a very hard time. My mother was very helpful as much as she was able to. Because I went in all kinds of circumstances to babysit, no matter where it happened. I just took over. So let's say if I had to put him on pajamas. Oh, that was a job. So I held him on my arm, under me, and then I would put on his pants, and while he would punch my back. What Shloimy did with me, he really... So he was very good. And Esther was more quiet, more zurückgezogen. Esther loved the Schlesinger family. Really loved the Schlesinger family. She got Warmkeit over there.
My parents get a lot of credit. They put the love of Shloimy into all of us. He didn't differentiate because he was not the normal child.
As a young child, growing up, I mean, Shloimy was my bigger brother, and sure enough, when we went to yeshiva together, to Cheder, as first grade or whatever the grades were, kindergarten or whatever that was, sure enough, I became his older brother, and I always had to accompany it, be his guardian, sort of. I must admit, it was a lot of challenges to it. It was not just taking care of a younger brother. It was more to it. I had to issue, he was wild. It was my fault. Whatever happened to Shloimy in yeshiva was always my fault or something to that effect. Not only that, many times in the past, people would check us that, they would call me, Mongolian family. I noticed Mongolian is called Mongolian because the Mongolian race is similar to the Down syndrome, so that's why people call them Mongolian.
I believe it was also when we were growing up that our life evolved with Shloimy, and there were times then that when my parents would go to Eretz Yisrael and they would take only a few children, is because they wanted that whoever stays behind should be with Shloimy also. So if Shloimy would be, let's say, by one of our aunts, my parents wanted that me or Yankee should also stay alone, should stay behind to be with him. And it's not like we had to watch him, it's just another set of eyes that they trusted and they felt like he would be better.
I remember an incident. We were coming home from yeshiva on Bedford Avenue on U Street, and boarding the bus, and Goyim came and stole the yarmulkes from some of the children. And sure enough, Shloimy's was also stolen, and he put up a fuss and we couldn't calm him down. I don't think I was more than 6 and change at that time. And I remember giving him my yarmulke and going home that way. And that's how life was with him.
I remember us having friends. We were all kind of always protective of Shloimy. And even when we weren't with Shloimy, I looking back now and thinking back, many people stayed away from us and didn't want to be friends or being associated or coming over to our place to play with us because we have this brother who they would call a crazy man. And in those days, they weren't called special children. They were called crazy.
I remember Shloimy when I was much younger, and the early memories, he was very, very wild. I remember him jumping on the beds, jumping on the couch, knocking walls, sometimes beating us. He was very, very wild.
I grew up with Shloimy. I went to Cheder, so Shloimy went to the same bus with me. And I went to yeshiva to Cheder, basically Kitala or kindergarten, whatever it was. And Shloimy was never put in the basement, in the cellar. And that was where he spent the day.
He was in the Cheder of Keith Street. We didn't know, and Dudi was too young, he didn't even say nothing. He was there. They locked him into the cellar.
I remember when I grew up already, I was married, I told my father what happened, with Shloimy back in the days. My father didn't believe me, so I told Shloimy, let's ask Shloimy about it. I'm not going to tell Shloimy, but I'm just going to give him, feed him a little bit here and there, and then let's see what happens. And I started asking Shloimy, remember, we went to Cheder and the bus together, what happened with Freund Rabbi, what happened every day when he came to school, to the Cheder? So he said, oh no, in the basement, in the cellar. He said it, my father flipped. I told my father first, and then my father called Shloimy, we asked him together, and Shloimy said it, my father couldn't believe it. And that was my father's friends who were down in the Shrapkov, that I'm not going to say names, but my father used to give them chodesh geld every month, every single month, every chodesh my father gave them a check, and that was the thanks to put Shloimy in the basement, locked up in a cellar, basically a dark dungeon.
Well, when we were really, really young, he was very wild. And he was, you couldn't reason with him. He was just like untrained or just not educated and not well behaved.
Putting the puzzle together, why Shloimy was so wild and beginning the age when he was younger, because this is what they did to him every day. And As soon as my father took him out, put him to Hask, he was a different person. He was more calm, he was a happy person.
Then he used to go to Cheder, and we didn't realize that it was not the right place for him.
We went to Hask, and Hask was not yet to the point that they could take care of it, but slowly they built themselves up. I helped them out, in fact. Shmuel Khan, with his brother-in-law, Stern, came here to pay a shiva call. And he was telling me that once his father sent him over, they needed money and they gave him $17,000. Those days, it was a lot of money, $17,000.
When Hask opened and he went to Hask, he became a changed person. He became totally different, well-behaved, happy. He loved going to Hask. He came home, he would talk about his day. He would show what he learned. And I remember when he learned to write his name. He learned to daven. And Jenny was very happy.
When hearing Shloimy's siblings reflect about the early years of his life, it is very important to remember that there was no exposure to children with special needs in those days. There was no community awareness, there was no outreach. People weren't being bad, they just didn't know any better.
Once he was in Hask, it was a different Shloimy. He had a purpose, all of a sudden he could relate to things, and I believe a part of the frustration, a part of the wildness that Shloimy had was because he couldn't express himself, and there was no tools to teach him besides being taught in the house, which you needed really a special person or a counselor or someone who understands a little bit more to it than just an ordinary couple who's raising other children at the same time. When you have a counselor and you have an experienced person who knows and studied and understands this type of children, all of a sudden took a hold of him and made a mensch out of it. And that's how I feel he turned into a mensch.
Shloimy's brothers describing the difference in him, it really underscores how important it is to be in the right place, how placement makes all difference in a child's life.
He was loved after that, in shul, everybody liked him because he was behaving. He was not a troublemaker. He wasn't, came in shul, he was sitting in one place all the time and davened and didn't make no noise, no nothing, so he was a real tzaddik.
And when he grew up, I remember Shloimy was 13 years old, he requested, he wanted to have a Peshat Lefaz Bar Mitzvah. And I remember that they learned the Mishnah with him. Now I asked the boys, how can they say, remember, it was Yankee Stark that taught him a Mishnah and Brachos.
By the time he was Bar Mitzvah, he was a totally different boy. I remember, I'm not sure, I think he even said a few words like a little Peshat. He wanted to say it.
In the shul, he was mamash, highly given talk to people, and he was looking what he can do himself, and he found that Galila was his thing, so I bought him Galila for the whole year. And when he got to the camp to Hask, for example, they gave him, I spoke to them, they should give him Galila, and he got Galila there. Of course, he was probably the only one who made Kiddush every Shabbos. We gave him small juices, for each Kiddush. And we had a little special cause for him for that, and he was very happy with doing it.
He always knew where they up to, either by, as far as I know, he couldn't read or write, but he would memorize what about Tefillah saying Baruch Shama. He would constantly listen. You wouldn't think that he's listening, but he knew. And you would ask him, Shloimy, what are they up to? Baruch Shama, Ashrei, Yishtabach, he knew Nishmas, he knew places where they could be up to.
By the time I came around, he was after his bar mitzvah. He was so cute, he was calm, and we just had a good time with him. He was funny, good sense of humor. Whatever he said was just funny and cute, and he never bothered. He was always very quiet to himself and sat in his corner, played games. He always used to listen to the radio. He was up to date on all the current events. So Shloimy was busy with the Yankees, so we had to buy him the small transistor radio, and the battery had to be fully charged. And if it didn't work, we had to go out and buy a new battery for it. He was listening for the games, and when he heard the Yankees won, it was Susa and Simcha in the house. The Yankees won. If they lost, they still won. Doesn't matter. It was always the Yankees won. Very into politics, and he knew exactly who to vote for. He was a hardcore conservative Republican, and he always voted. And he made sure that before the elections that they'll have someone that's going to take him to vote. My father and mother was very into politics. I can only think of today he would be a hardcore Trump fan.
I know that Shloimy was different, and not just because he was our brother, because Shloimy was. Maybe it had to do with the education that and the kind of work and the kind of effort that my parents had put in, that he had calmed down and he was more tamed after a while.
Probably because of the parents, because of us. Bobby took care of him unbelievable. Bobby was very special to him. The feeding, he was fed specially, especially in the beginning. He had no teeth, and with everything.
So growing up with Shloimy was very different for me than for my brothers, because Shloimy was already a mensch. He was settled. He had his ways of life. He was easy. He was very predictable and on the ball, and he was fine. And you know, it was not a problem bringing my friends over. We were very proud of him. We always had fun because we had the Hanukkah parties in Hask and Borough Park, and then later on we had the Hask concert, and we had visiting day in camp. So sort of everything revolved around Shloimy was fun and happy.
When Dada was here, he was mamish sitting next to him because he wanted to hear and listen to him. He knew that that is something special, and he was there. He was there, mamish, quietly, and so you know he liked all the Heimish, the religious things. He loved it. He loved it.
And he used to come to Brooklyn, and he was like Fiat Tish. He would love every second. He would stay up to the very late when people started leaving already. People would go home. Every second by him was like, oh, another song is coming, another song. And I think Dada loved him also a lot, and he loved Dada.
One of the things that I remember vividly is Friday coming home from Hask, approximately 12 o'clock. He went in and he hung up his coat if it was in the winter time, took out the vacuum cleaner, took the extension cord, and vacuum cleaned the staircase. It wasn't the easiest thing to do because the staircase there was one step up, one step was crooked, the other one was shaking, and he cleaned up the steps every year of Shabbos, every year of Yom Tov. The second thing he did there of Shabbos was put in the seltzer in the refrigerator. That was his job. Whenever Friday night we didn't have cold seltzer, it was Shloimy, what happened to the seltzer?
And we loved Shabbos. Shabbos was by him the gift of Shabbos. He liked the Zemiros. He loved when Dada used to come to our house, and he would have his Suda and the Tish, and people would come and they would be singing all kinds of Zemiros. He loved every song, and so much so that when Shloimy would come to us for Shabbos, he would expect the same thing. He would expect that we should sing every not just Makal Makadashim and Nechal Simcha, or maybe Kari Bainolam, and that would be finished. He would go, what's with us B'Yom HaShvi'i Nachta? What's with the other songs? Like he would say Tzur Mishaloi and Shevach Yikar Gdilo. You know what I'm saying? And these are songs which usually even Rebbes only sing it on a Shabbos like Hanukkah or Shabbos, big Shabbos.
What my father sang Frackets Matzamidas, and Shevach Yikari Gdilo, Shevach Yikari. You remember Fadershi, Shevach Yikari Gdilo, Shevach. It was very cute.
But he wanted it all. He wanted, and later on in years, if he didn't sing, he would stop talking, he would fall asleep right here. If he would be sitting right here, he would like kind of fall asleep. But the minute we started singing some more songs, he would wake up and he would be hopping with his hands and going with his full. He loved Shabbos. He loved music. He loved songs. He loved the holiness of Shabbos, the ruach,
He sang Shabbos miros. There was no getting away with it. Word for word, adorable, happy, and every week, no fail. And also, like Dodi told me, he used to like Hallel, and he used to say Rosh Chodesh. He himself in shul, Yalla B'Yavai, the cutest. You know, nobody asked him. He just he reminded everybody what goes on in shul. So cute.
Shloimy is also special in many other ways. He had a good heart. I remember Shloimy himself had a hard time walking, and we had this neighbor. His name was Tuvia. He was a big guy, and he couldn't walk. And Shloimy used to schlep him to shul and back, and rain or shine, winter and summer, Shloimy was always there taking him. He was a special neshama. He was always, you know, good. Anybody that came in contact with Shloimy loved Shloimy. He was just, you know, fun to be with, and we all loved him.
And that reminds me how much he would never be disrespectful to my parents. He would never disrespect my mother, or even if she would be yelling at him sometimes, always with respect. He would tell me, make some faces behind her, or tell Ruchi or Friday. Never in front of her. He would never disrespect, never say anything, never, like, even if it's 100% right and he didn't do something or something like that, keep his mouth shut.
Shloimy was also very special. He was a very respectful to everyone, to my parents, and everyone that he interacted. He was just, you know, very respectful.
So when we were in 10th grade, 2 of my friends' mothers had Down syndrome babies. And it was, at first it was like a very traumatic story. And then they decided to be very open about it, and the whole class got involved. Everything revolved around special needs, and the teacher started bringing us articles. And when my friend came for Shiva, she told me that her parents decided not to keep their sister and not to bring her home. And she and her younger sisters convinced their parents to bring him home because they remember how Shloimy was loved and how the family had so much fun with Shloimy, and it was so nice. So, you know, Bobby and Zaidi get the credit for another family that they kept their child home.
What I really want to focus on here is be Bobby's voice, because she really is the unsung hero in all of this. She cannot speak for herself now and tell us all her memories and what it was like when she started out. When Bobby started out with this whole thing, she really entered uncharted territories. She had nothing mapped out for her, no script to follow, no one to ask questions, no one to guide her, no therapist, no school, nothing. She hardly knew the name for this, and she actually did an amazing job. I realized when Shloimy was here how disciplined and well-behaved he was. He was the only one, scratch that, he made his bed military style, had all his things so organized. He was well-mannered, polite. He knew who he had to listen to, and he was happy. He was gentle. He was warm, connected. You know, he was fun. He really, minus that extra chromosome, he was an amazing person. Had he been regular, I think he would have been quite a personality. He was warm and friendly and beloved. He was a super person. He really was. And I think a lot of the credit really goes to Bobby. She raised him beautifully. All the davening, all the tefillin, all the things that he knew about life, all came from her. Of course, Zaidi, you know, and the siblings contributed tremendously as well. But on her own, single-handedly, Bobby really did an amazing job of raising Shloimy. It showed. It really showed.
Bobby was probably a front runner to what ABA is today. The way she trained him in all the skills, the way he made his bed, the way he packed away after himself, he threw all his plates and cutlery in the garbage. That's probably the front runner for ABA today. Just repeating the steps and getting rewarded for it. She could have been a really big therapist today because what she did was really unheard of in those days.